The story of probability and logic was somehow founded by Boole, which claimed it was the laws of thought. And for instance, now we have very simple example of illusion, which are bistable illusion, which are modeled simply by some energy landscape, where you switch from one perception to another percept. Just by going from a low by changing on some energy landscape, so which can be related to stuff. So basically, this is the kind of model which is used to model the change of illusion, the change of perception, the switch from one to the other, and it just implements somehow what Aristotle claimed. Is that the non-contradiction rule or the consistency of a theory. And Boole expressed the consistency as idempotence, which can be read exactly as x and non-x equals 0. It's impossible. So this is old ideas. In cognition, we have the same principle. If you take random binary variables, then you consider an energy landscape, and you can define some network. And the upfield work was basically to set this setting into statistical physics. In neuroscience, there was just a few times after Shannon, there was a guy called Atnev who claimed that the goal of sensory perception is to extract the redundancies and to find the most compressed representation of the environment, and that any kind of symmetry and invariance are information redundancies. And that the Gestalt principles of perception, which Gestalt school is a psychophysical school of perception, can be defined on information theory terms. So he gave this example of dots, and which are in fact the maximum curvature of a drawing of a cat, and when you add the edges, then you start to see, to bind all the structure and add the perception, which is somehow a boundary action, the boundary. So basically it gives an idea of the need of a theory of shape, which I know that plenty of people love the idea to have a theory of shape, and the theory of shape based on information theory, And of course, there was all the theory of Waddington of development and morphogenesis, which was followed by Thom also, which presented the evolution of a cell, the cell fate, as the evolution along an energy landscape, which is in fact given by some masslet and a complex system of masslet of mass going on to. Okay. So that's the motivation. That's some kind of motivation. So what I'm going to present relies on a very well all defined functions, which were defined first by Shannon and then generalized by Ukeo-Ting and Yeung. So basically, it is the Shannon entropy, the joint entropy of several variables. So I write them such that it is apparent that they depend on both random variables and the probability. Okay. So these are the usual ones. You have the mutual information as usually defined, and then there was some generalization of mutual information, notably given by Ukeo-Ting, which defines by inclusion-exclusion principle the mutual information as the joint entropy as the alternated sums of all the mutual informations. So if you use this, you can give an expression of multivariate mutual information at several orders, which is in fact a ratio in between odd number of variables in the denominator and even numbers of. So, for example, the three multivariate mutual information is something like this, with the triplet here and all the doublet here. Okay, and the big surprise and the big stuff was that for k superior above degree 3, the mutual information can be negative. So, and it allows also to define the conditional information and the conditional mutual information. So the result of U was very nice and completely forgotten for a while, because it showed that you have an exact correspondence, let's say a dictionary from information functions to set theory and union and intersection and complement and set complement of the function of a joint mutual information and the conditioning. And it also showed that it makes a ring of functions, which was somehow it was in 1962, and Yeung made a further much work also, and showed also that the conditional mutual information generates all the other ones. Simply, if you consider the third variable to be equal to the trivial variable, then it gives the mutual information. If you consider that x2 is equivalent to x1, it gives conditional entropy, and both condition gives the marginal entropy. And notably, we have the first degree mutual information is equal to the first degree entropy. So, and we have the usual chain rules, which with the chain rules of information, and also the chain rules for mutual information. And we write, as we will see, the conditioning as an action on the functions. Okay, which gives this gives some recurrence. This is, let's say, very usual information theory. So the settings that was done notably by Daniel to show that there is an homological structure around this is to set the random variables as partitions, and exactly to make what John presented before, to make a vector space of those random variables and a complex about it. So basically, the setting is that you consider the partition on the atomic probabilities, which is represented here for a sample space of 4 elements. So you have this lattice of partition, and then it gives you all the random variables that you can imagine, since partitions, let's say, you can see them as equivalent classes on the atomic probabilities. So the joint variable of two partitions is the less fine partition that is finer than x1 and x2, which is somehow can be thought as the greatest common divisor. And you have a partial order on the structure, which is the usual partial order on the partition lattice. So it's a poset. Okay. So we were going to work on this is the lattice of partition that defines which defines the structure on which we will work. In fact, what I will present here is a much reduced system, which is the simplicial structure, which is a much simpler lattice, and which is totally reduced, as we will see, very, very reduced. And then we can define the information function as the real module of all measurable functions defined on this lattice. And we consider the joint and the probability as the image law of P by the variable. Okay, so about just the probability simplex. So We can see the space of the probability space as all the laws on all the probability laws as a simplex. Here we give an example of n-1 dimension for a sample space of n dimension. And in fact, it implements. So we take here. I forgot to say I will present only a finite and discrete setting. It's a very simple, very basic stuff, and it implements the Kolmogorov axiomatic of probability in the discrete setting. So it gives exactly the discrete probability space. And for instance, that some pi equals 1 gives a Navin geometry. Positivity impose kind of convexity, and we have by the theorem of total probability we can handle so the probabilities as a barycentric coordinate. And in fact, conditioning can be seen as a projection on the subsimplex, and in fact it is even possible to form some complex of probability by in fact any complex can be constructed as a subcomplex of a simplex in abstract simplicial set. And basically, if you add some constraint of the form PA equals 0 or PA1 equals 0, you obtain this is a simplex, okay, of probability which is full. You remove all the face and obtain this complex, which is a subcomplex of this simplex, which is a two-simplex of probability with three elements, with free probability. So here it is conditioning can be seen as a projection on the. So basically here, if you have a simplex with four elements in the sample space, it makes a three-simplex, and when you project, you go on the subface of the stuff, and directly, the simplicial properties gives the associativity of conditioning. So this is also probably well known since age, but well, it is and I think quite nice to see it. So now to go back to the homology, the conditioning is seen as an action. In fact, the left action on the functional modules of information functions, which are noted like it is noted like this, and it represents just the usual conditioning, and it will give the conditional entropy that we will see. So the conditioning is associative, and this is why we have an associative structure. And the complex of Randolph variables can be written like this. And we consider the Cauchy complex given by those complex of random variables, information structure, let's say, with a co-boundary. And this is the chain complex. A very simple way of presenting it, at least. So the first co-boundary we consider is the usual and the Hochschild cohomology co-boundary, which was used then which was for associative and ring structure, associative algebra and ring structure, and it is with the left action, and so it is exactly what the co-boundary which is used for Galois cohomology. And the comparison with Galois cohomology of information is very interesting. And Daniel, in fact, it is at the beginning of the intuition of Daniel that information is a Galois theory, in the sense that ambiguity, Galois said by himself that group theory is a group of ambiguity. He described group of ambiguity. So there are some reason why, at least some interpretation of information in terms of uncertainty or ambiguity, which is quite clear. So this is the action, the left action of the co-boundary. It is quite close to the one that we just seen. So you define also a trivial topological co-boundary, which the trivial action, which is in fact which gives the set which is invariant by the action of the stuff. It will be quite equivalent with following Gerstenhaber and Schack and so on. I tried to see also what gives the symmetric left and right action of conditioning. So here it had just symmetric means that you're in that means this. So the right and the left action is the same, and it adds this term at the end. So the main result of the main results was that. If you compute, now we just showed some computation of the co-boundaries at different orders, at different degrees, such that it appears obvious that, in fact, the co-boundaries gives relations which are well known in information theory. So the first one, which was noted, is that if you compute the first co-boundary, it gives this expression of the left cohomology, okay? Which is, when you take the co-cycle condition, it gives exactly what the analog of the chain rules. And in fact, if we follow Kendall and Lee, just from this, it's possible to recover the functional equation of information that Philippe presented, and to characterize uniquely up to an arbitrary constant, okay, the entropy, as the first class of cohomology. So the main theorem that we had was that the information cohomology space of degree 1 is one-dimensional and generated by entropy, and this is the main stuff. Then for the topological coboundary, it gives this. If you take the trivial action here, it gives this, and if you consider if in terms of information, it gives the mutual information, for instance. If you take the symmetric coboundary, you take the information, the information stuff. It gives you minus the mutual information. Now, if you take for in degree 2. If you compute the two coboundary of left stuff, it gives it shall give 0. The left two coboundary gives minus the 3 mutual information. Then the topological two coboundary gives 0, and the symmetric also gives 0, and so on and so on. So for the 3 degrees, you obtain 0 for the left, minus 4 mutual information, and so on. So basically, this was the first. In fact, the quite surprise is that there is at least from the analogical the relations that are obtained from coboundary of Hochschild cohomology seems deeply related to information relations. And it is then possible to generalize to arbitrary degrees by remarking in fact, we can show that even degrees are mutual information. This is okay. Let's take it like this. So I'm going to go directly to this. Even degrees are odd informations in the left action coboundary, and the other one, and the odds are 0. And odd degrees, odd coboundaries. No, I have no more battery on the stuff. So even degrees of the symmetric coboundary are minus odd informations. So this was somehow the main result. It's quite sad to have two cohomologies with two different that gives mutual information in odd and even degrees. So because it is obtained in a single theory in entropy. So basically, I've tried recently to make a double complex such that we get both even and odd mutual information in a single theory. So following Gerstenhaber and Schack. So we can discuss about this. I'm not 100% sure of what I did. So basically, now to come to independence, independence is one of the main topics of in statistics. And so we have the usual theorem that two variables are independent if and if the mutual information is zero, which is somehow is a co-cycle condition, which is the first co-cycle condition. And in fact, to go back to well-known results, is that the mutual information, the zero of mutual information implies the zero of correlation, which, but not the converse, is not usually true in general. So there is the possibility to propose a weak notion of independence, which would be k-independent, which says that variables are k-independent if their k-mutual information is zero. And then you have the following kind of theorem. They are mutually independent if and only if, for all n and all variables in the structure, the mutual information, all k below n, ik, the mutual information is zero. So it makes this it gives an interpretation of the cohomology in statistical terms, which is quite natural. In this sense, the cohomology information quantifies statistical dependencies at all degrees, and the obstruction to factorization, to give an obstruction interpretation. This is the fact that k-independence, in fact, is made by this setting to coincide with co-cycles. So now we go to the problem and the computation. We posted some what is presented on bioRxiv. So the big problem with the lattice of partition is this combinatorial complexity. It follows Bell combinatorics, so there are exp n power n elements for n NRE variable. So it means that you will never compute it, even for reasonable experiment. And so it is given at each degree, you have the Stirling number of second kind element to compute. So I give you an example. For 16 variables and 8 values, you have to compute more than 2 power 200 elements. So there's no way until we have better computers. So the computational solution proposed here is to develop the simplest subcase, and it will be mainly combinatorial topology. It is the simplicial substructure, which in fact simplicial topology, which is the analysis situ of Poincaré, the beginning of homology, which with a complexity in 2 power n, and binomial numbers of elements at each degree. Okay, so and it sums to each degree. There is a big consequence, it is a very large loss of generality of the framework. So, I mean, we can miss a lot of dependencies in this case. If, no?
Okay, from 0?
What?
Okay, it goes from 0 to n.
0 to n, yes, 0, yeah, right. Sorry, yeah. In fact, the first one is you'll see it's always the same, and it's totally trivial. Yeah, so but you're right for for the sum, it's better. From the structure, the 0, we do not see it. So simplicial information structure, it will be on the Boolean lattice, simply on the Boolean lattice. of all subsets. So you take the set of subsets of n. So it is the usual, and you can identify all the k faces of the n simplex with all those elements. So you can define on this structure. You can define the join and meet of variables, which will be the usual join and meet of Boolean algebra, and which define two opposite dual monoids, which with a semilattice which is associated to it. So it is an information substructure of what we presented before. It's just because any finite lattice is a sublattice of the partition lattice. So we are in the subcase of what we presented before, and we can construct a simplicial complex of variables. Simply by considering subcomplex of the simplex in the lattice, which is a usual result also, and you can see it in Steenrod, for instance. So basically, it's an ordinary homological structure, and here the dimension of the data space coincide with the degree. We will see it immediately with the application to data. So now I will present how to represent the results of the estimation of the information. So basically we call this information landscape, and here I do not have any. So basically it comes to put in abscissa the values of the information for each tuples. The values of entropy or mutual information for each tuple as a function. What?
So what you compute for each, you have n variable.
Yes, n variable.
And you compute the h k for each variable.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is ek?
Ek is the mutual information, multivariate k mutual information.
Of the first k?
Of the first k, exactly.
Okay, it's not the sum of all the time. You take the first k.
The first k, yeah. It's the first k, and the same for the joint variable joint entropy. So I compute the 2 power n entropies and the 2 power n mutual informations, and represent it as a function of k. Okay. So basically, what it makes in terms of data, it makes those functions are real continuous functions. So it makes a rank of the it makes a rank of the variables. It ranks at each order the variables. I have to accelerate. So
sorry, just to be precise on this point,
right.
Because you have 2 exponent n. In fact, you take the mutual information of all the parts, not only the first car. You take every subset of car variables.
Yes. And compute their information. To all subsets to all subsets of n.
Ek is this collection of information.
Yeah.
Because for Ek is a collection of all the mutual information of the subset with k. It's not a number.
No, it's a function which has which gives a number in output, which is the ordinate here in this. It's the alternated sum of the.
Because you need two exponent n. So here I have 2n.
No, here you have, for instance, this is simple. There is four variables here. Okay. So we have 2 power 4. We have binomial 2 among 4 at the first order.
You see, over each point, for instance, over the point 2, you have 6 values.
Yeah, of course.
So yes, so that's what I said.
Okay, this is what you said.
Ek is a vector.
Yeah, okay. No, in the sense, Ek is a vector. Okay, and you will see that it comes to vector addition, blah blah. So basically, okay. So Such kind of representation gives for independent identically distributed such a diagram, which the count is represented by color, meaning that you have I h1 and 0 for all the higher degrees. It also it gives some way to go to n equals infinite. Because it follows the binomial counting. And such diagrams also characterize the Markov chain, since we have the theorem that for Markov chain of n element, the mutual information in between the first and the last is equal to all the mutual information at higher degrees in between the first and the last. So, and we have also the theorem that the mutual information for Markov chain is positive. So basically, now I present you what looks like negativity. So negativity, this is we started and it's far from being finished. To characterize it, for instance, for three random variables, binary random variables, for three Bernoulli. So basically, there are four maxima of the three mutual information, which are given by those configuration. If we project them, they are. It gives the projection. I have no more. It gives the projection that are below. Okay. And there are two minima of the three information, which correspond to those configuration in data space, for instance, for the three random variables, and which are totally random at the second on each projection of the space. So basically, what happens for this case, for the minimum of information, which is -1 in this case, what happens is that you have random variables that are fully independent, pairwise fully independent, but correlated dependent at 3 with a non-trivial dependence at 3. This non-trivial dependence at 3 was called synergy by Brenner et al. And is related to frustrated spin glasses. Ah, yes, few of. So better, thank you. Okay, so we applied this to gene expression measure, which happened in qPCR experiment with mRNA. It measured the mRNA expression of 41 genes in 111 dopaminergic cells. So what we have, in fact, we take the dopaminergic midbrain nucleus and extract their cytoplasm and measure by amplification, measure the quantity of mRNA in each cell. So basically, it gives you a matrix like this, where you have all the individual neurons here and all the 41 genes that are quantified here. Okay, so this is the input. Then you compute the probabilities with a very basic way of counting and by discretizing the values in 8 boxes of 8 dimensions. So basically, it is represented here. So if you take 2 genes, the expression of 2 genes like this, you have here the data points. And the discretization, which is done like this, allows to establish the joint probability distribution and an estimation of the joint of the marginal probabilities. And then you go, of course, you go from the joint to the marginal by marginalization, which is a projection. So here is the result that we have. For entropy landscape, we obtain such a stuff for dopaminergic cells and such a kind of representation for non-dopaminergic cells, where here we see that it's for 21 genes, so we are obliged to represent it as a density, where the color represents the number of tuplets in one value. And this is for mutual information, so basically for dopaminergic and for 20 other non-relevant genes. So let's say that I have a computational restriction. I cannot go much further with my PC than n equals 21. And there is positive and negative, so we see that there are positive and negative IK, mutual information, and K independence, even for high degrees of mutual information, for triplets, quadruplets of mutual information. So, and this is another way of representing the maximum and minimum values that we obtain in such diagrams. So here are represented the marginal are represented as a radius of each variables, and the widths of the edges are represent the two mutual information, represent the triplets with triangles and etc. So it's a way to represent the mutual information values. And here we represent only the highest values. And here we represent the whole histograms obtained. So we have a combinatorial complexity of interactions, so meaning that there are plenty of let's say, information which are positive, and the IK are nonetheless specific to a given cell type. It gives a kind of cell identity signature. So what the maximum and minimum IK modules I showed you previously. So basically, for the negative information, the minima, for example, for four variables, it gives such kind of clustered, it detects such kind of clustered clusters in the data. Whereas for the maxima of mutual information at 4, so the fourth dimension is coded by the color. It gives covariating co-expression of genes. So here I give a more complex example of negative mutual information at 4 and positive and negative I3, subset I3, which give this, and clearly there are some clusters and more complicated correlations. So this is this. So now if I define the average, which is simply dividing by the binomial coefficient, it gives one single mean average, and it's possible to propose, which by analogy to statistics, what's happening in van der Waals, let's say, n-body interactions. What's happening in n-body interaction is that you below a certain temperature threshold, you have a monotonically decreasing free energy. And when you start to be at above a critical threshold of temperature, you have a critical point in the energy profile. And this is a very simple model to model interactions in a spheric gas, but there was some much more refined models. And here I give an example of a paper that used the band dimension to characterize such an effect. What is important for biology is that a lot of small interactions makes important interaction, and here we have a combinatorial exactly explosion of stuff. And it gives also the condensation effect can also is analog to the clustering we have seen before. So, according to this analogy, you can give a definition of kinetic information energy as the first marginal component, and all the K interaction mutual information, we define them as a K free information energy. And in this case, we recover a kind of usual thermodynamic isotherm relation, which gives that the entropy is equal to the kinetic component minus the free energy component. So I have no time, but there is a big problem with the finite size, the size of effect, and it makes a saturation in the. It makes a saturation that one has to take into account in the estimation of the information functions. So basically, in our case, we cannot go below 6, the degree 6. And this is the different isograining result when you make the graining change. So I have finished.
25, you still have 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. Cool. So now this was the kind of results. What we can define on the lattice, we can define information passes. And the information passes, we define it simply by a sequence of, in fact, we're going to make homology. We define it as a sequence of random variables, like this, and which begins at the least test element of the lattice and travels along the edge of increasing lattice. We define them dually on the union and on the intersection on the intersection semi-lattice. Okay, this is the path. Now, so the set of paths is in fact in one-to-one correspondence with the symmetric group. It's very easy to see it. At the first node, you have n possibilities. At the second node, you have n minus 1 possibility, etc., etc. So basically, you have k factorial, and you can identify each path with a permutation. So, and basically, this will be to be done. So each path can be seen as a piecewise linear function, as a function of k. So where each value is equal to ik. And as a very easy stuff, we can, in this case, the first derivative is exactly the conditional entropy for the entropy landscape. And for the mutual information landscape, the first derivative of a path is just the minus the conditional mutual information. So this is just a way to represent the usual functions. So it is minus the conditional information. Okay, so this is just the derivative of those paths. And the bounds of the derivative, what is interesting, that the bound of this derivative are given by the usual inegalities and defined codes. So basically, for entropy, we have the usual positivity of conditional mutual information and independence that bounds the slope of the path. For negativity, it becomes, for mutual information, it becomes much more difficult and rich, in fact, because we have, for k equals 2, it's always positive. The conditional mutual information is always positive, but for k equals 3, it's always positive also. But for k superior to 3, in fact, it can be negative. So basically, we have the Matsuda inequality that we have negativity of conditional mutual information if and only if the sequence is decreasing decreasing in mutual information. So basically, it allows the negativity of conditional mutual information allows to have critical point on the information path. So this was the main idea to characterize the critical point of information path. And in fact, they come from purely negativity of conditional information. So Young and many people went much further on what means the conditional information negativity. In fact, they developed a complete framework where, in fact, Shannonian inequalities are related to conditional positivity, and non-Shannonian inequalities and gives a cone, which is the non-Shannonian cone, which is somehow consequences of this stuff. So basically, there's some relations on the fact that there is a critical point as a path, and the inequalities. So we have the kind of very easy theorem. So whenever you have a conditional mutual information which is negative, we know that there was at least one critical point, and we will be interested in the first critical point, which is a local minima, obviously. And for an information path to have a critical point, it is necessary that the dimension, the degree, is superior to 3. Okay, so it defines the first critical dimension, informational critical dimension. We can define the positive information path as an information path which is strictly decreasing in information, donc a total order, as a total order. And we define the maximal positive information path as a positive information path of maximal length, such that, in fact, these correspond to definitions of phase and the maximal phases of a simplex, in fact. And so this allows us to define a simplex which detects complex, which detects all the critical minima of informations, which is defined like this. The set of positive information paths forms a simplicial complex. And we call this complex, in analogy to statistical physics, the minimum free energy complex. And it is, to be a complex which is not a simplex, in fact, it is necessary that the dimension is superior or equal to 4. So here I draw an example of such a subcomplex of the simplex, which stops at all the critical minima of information passes. So, dimension... And it's even possible to define a sum of entropies which are only pertains to this set, to this complex. Okay, so there is an analog of there is a second law expression in information topology. So if you just consider a stochastic process as a collection of random variables on the same probability space, and T, which is indexed by T as a totally ordered set, then if you consider a simplicial structure, then the set of paths HP are in one-to-one correspondence with the set of stochastic processes, and you have a second law which says that in an information structure, then the entropy of a stochastic process can only increase with time. This is the adage of Gabor: you can't have something for nothing, not even an observation. So this is just an improvement of the result of cover, which we assume the stationary Markov conditions. Here we just consider the total order given by the chains, which is replaced. Okay. So the computational problem now, to compute it is finding it comes to explore all paths in the tree, and it's NP hard. So basically we made to estimate the complex of minimum energy free energy. So the computational solution was at each edge of a path to select only the maximal slope and the minimal slope. So it gives two kinds of passes, the minimum information passes and the maximum information passes. And this is a very fast algorithm, but it gives a partial estimation of the minimum free energy complex. It means that we cannot guarantee that we have that it computes exactly the stuff. So here are the results on data. It's the same in mutual information landscape as previously. And the maximal slope passes are those ones until they stop to the mini critical point. And those are the maximum length, so they are length 6. The maximal length 6, okay? And the minimal, for the minimal values, the minimal slope of conditional mutual information, negative, it gives this. And when we look at the sextuplets which are here, it gives exactly, and for positive, the chains of metabolic chains of dopamine, which is in fact the well-known dopamine chains, and which are further known to be with genes which are further known to be with a co-regulator expression regulator. And for the negativity, we find all the genes that are known to have differential expression as a function of space and as a function of cell subtypes. So we have a good, not even good, very good agreement with the bibliography of the modules we identify with those. So the negativity, the minimum pass detect heterogeneity, subclasses, and spatial differential expressions, whereas we identify good non-coupling stuff. And now to come back to what to the beginning, we can make this on the transpose matrix. So basically, we consider M as 41 genes and N as 21 cells, and we just make the transpose of the matrix. And if we make the same analysis, we obtain this and this. So we can identify here at 10, we forgot to say, and we put 10 pre-identified neurons, dopamine neurons, and 10 non-dopaminergic neurons. So here we have two components in the information landscape. The mutual information at 10 here corresponds exactly to the 10 dopaminergic neurons, okay? And if I take the passes, then it gives, it identifies with one fault 9 of the dopaminergic neurons and 10 for this pass, the 10 non-dopaminergic neurons. And if I plot the distribution of mutual informations at each degrees, we obtain clearly two separated components of the distributions which are related to the two populations until the degree 10, which are the 10 cells. So it's somehow what could find the closest to Waddington landscape epigenetic of the cell fate as a function of information theory. So those tools are very simple. Those landscapes implement all classical information functions, change rules and inequalities, and they are available for computation on GitHub. So it's free tools. What is nice is that the non-Shannonian inequalities of Yeung, there will be probably some presentation about this, of Yeung, Mathius, etc., are related to existence of critical points in information paths. And this is a new topological and statistical data analysis method. Okay. And the global idea is to go from, in a theory of communication, which is not only one channel, which is one simplex, between one transmitter and a receiver, to a complex of emitter and receivers, and a higher, let's say, dimensional generalization to Shannon communication framework. So yeah, okay, I think it's gone. So I know, I mean, so there are plenty. It can be useful, I think, on the use. It can be useful in biology and ecology, notably, because if you take the definition of ecology, it's somehow the scientific analysis and study of interaction among organisms and their development. It's somehow what such a model is made for this. Notably, the main interest in biology of such a model is to be able to capture diversity, as it is just, let's say, a landscape with multi-valued degenerated a minimum energy landscape, an energy landscape with the possibility to have a lot of degeneracy. So you have plenty of it's possible to have a lot of local minima in such a stuff. So, and yes, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Can we hope to have a better understanding what is free energy in physics by your approach?
It's so basically there is in the framework there is no assumption of configuration space. There is no assumption of state phase. Un espace de phase. There is no assumption of symplectic stuff and so on. So basically, it's very there is only measure. So we can apply it. Can apply it to more structured space. So you can apply it to much structural space, but then you will have new relations. You will have plenty of additional structure, which make it much more rich, even more rich, probably. But here it's very basic. You just have a probability space, and you look at let's say interactions in some, and it's usually in statistical physics. It is what is used is correlation, and as we said, independence is somehow a bit stronger. It's not exactly the same as the correlations. So basically, it's a possible framework to be used. The free energy, for instance, if it's a free energy, it has the shape of the free energy, it has the taste of the free energy, and so on. But it's not the usual free energy of physics. And probably you're now defining free energies with a continuous, let's say Gibbs, like Gibbs free energy with an exponential. Here it's purely discrete and finite. So I don't even need to there is not even this microcanonical or canonical distribution, whatever. Okay.
Yes, it means that you find interesting shape about the dependency between the genes. Okay? For example, even for DA and NDA, there is a tendency to be non-independent because 2 by 2 almost always the curve grows, no?
Yeah.
And even for that, the fact that you decreased immediately after, okay, say, and when you come negative, for example,
yeah.
3, it says that even relative to this dependence, you have something like a synergy at 3.
It really depends. In fact, we have everything. So what is funny is that we have a vast majority that goes to negativity.
Yes.
Okay, but we have some triplets that stays highly. You see those one give you a.
Yes, but the majority makes synergies. Yeah.
The majority goes to clustered stuff like this, but we have some genes like this. You see that they stay at 4, at 3. They stay extremely correlated. Let's say correlated, even more than correlated. Yes, they are co-expressed.
And my question was: do this result were already predicted or known
Yes. This is the, for instance, the triplets we find that are positive are exactly the one that are in the dopaminergic for dopaminergic cells. They are exactly the one which are responsible of the metabolic chain of. No, it's and we let's say those one. I come back. So. No, here. So here, among the three that are very high, to tell you, they are above 0, okay, and this is the TH, which is the first one that forms dopamine. The nomenclature is horrible, so basically it gives you some of the chain of the liberation of dopamine of whatever, or recapture of dopamine. So basically it's the usual one, which are not just, and they are co-regulated by the same regulator, expression regulator. So basically this is TH. So the regulation of expression, there is a biologically known source of their common expression.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, then let's thank all the afternoon speakers again.